Code of Jewish Law, chapter 99, Sif base number 2. So we're speaking about muksa on Yom Tov. So we've said, we've just made general statements so far. In number 1, in the introduction, we said that in concept, whatever is muksa on Shabbos is muksa on Yom Tov. And then we also mentioned that in certain circumstances, we might be even more strict on Yom Tov, because since Yom Tov is in general less strict, we're worried that if we're also lenient with muksa, people are going to start treating Yom Tov cheaply and doing who knows what. So therefore, we need to strengthen Yom Tov's status by being a little bit strict with muksa. So that's what we're going to discuss now. Well, that's the introduction. Now we're going to discuss a noilid. Noilid literally means something was born. So we're not going to speak about people being born on Yom Tov, because someone's being born on Yom Tov, although in concept there might be muksa, but in practice, if you ignore them and don't take care of their needs and move them, a newborn, then we get into a life-threatening situation, God forbid. So that's going to overrule Shabbos and Yom Tov proper, never mind muksa, which is a rabbinic decree to protect Shabbos and Yom Tov. So we're not talking about people being born, but a noilid can mean, the classic case is an egg that's laid, but it can mean anything that was unexpected, well, was not unexpected, was not meant to happen beforehand. So you could say something came out of a factory, right? It was made over Yom Tov or something. So a new entity in the world. So let's see what it says, base number 2. And although we're going to talk about eggs, so those who have chickens, that's great, but it's the concept behind it that we're going to apply to other things. Beit shenolda b'Yom Tov, an egg that was born, was laid on Yom Tov. Asura afilu tziltul. Now it's also it's forbidden. It's muksa, even to move. You can't even move it. Avol, however, mutar lichbois aleha kli shlosh. You can put some type of utensil over it, let's say a bowl or something, so it shouldn't break. So you're not actually moving it, you're not actually touching it, just put something on top so it doesn't get broken. So you're allowed to protect it. So we'll already see. So we see 2 concepts so far. Something new on Yom Tov is muksa, but you're allowed to protect it. So right, the im nolda b'yom rishon. Now, if it got laid or came to existence on first day Yom Tov, muteres b'yom sheni. It's mutter, it's permissible on second day Yom Tov, because in concept, either one day is Yom Tov or the other day is. I mean, for us, it's sort of become like 2 independent days, but from a certain respect, either the first day is or the second day is. So if the first day was, then the second day is no problem. If the second day is the real one, then the first day was no problem. So the fact that it was laid on the first day is no problem. So either way is fine. So if it's laid, the egg is laid on the first day Yom Tov, you're allowed to have it second day. Now, in concept, if it was laid second day, you'd be allowed to have it on the first day. Just of course that doesn't happen because it's physically impossible. But it's the same theory behind it, right? Right, something can't exist before it came to existence, so practically it doesn't make a difference. You know, it doesn't work that way, but in theory, it would work. Now, that's if both days are Yom Tov. Because, as we said, either one day is the real one, or the primary one, or the other one is. But let's say you had a Yom Tov following or followed by Shabbos. So then it's a little bit different. Because now both days are days of independent Kedusha, independent holiness. Let's see what happens. V'chein im yom rishon hu Shabbos. Similarly, if the first day Yom Tov is Shabbos, the nolda boy, and this thing comes to existence, an egg got laid, whatever happens to be, then asura gam lamacha shel Yom Tov Sheni. It's also forbidden then on the second day. And the reason for this is that if you remember when we learned about muksa on Shabbos, what makes something muksa or not is its status and twilight, bein hashmoshes. So twilight, bein hashmoshes, is the time between shkia, sunset, and tzeisek chovim. We'll loosely call it nightfall, but when 3 medium stars come out. So sunset to totally dark. So whatever status an object has at that time, that's the status that it has for the entire Shabbos. So let's just use a totally different example just to get the concept clear in our mind. So let's say there was this rock, and before sunset, I designated it as a doorstop. So I gave it a purpose on Shabbos. I mean, it has a purpose on Shabbos. I gave the purpose before Shabbos. So in this twilight period, it had a purpose. So now, for the rest of that Shabbos, it is not muksa. It has a purpose. It has something that it can be used for something. So when I want to use it as a doorstop, I can pick it up and move it around. Transport, I can put it there for it to be the doorstop. If I didn't think about it until after nightfall, and it's never been used before as a doorstop, right? I just thought about it, it's nightfall was 7 o'clock, and at 8:30 I thought to myself, oh, you know what, that rock outside will make a great doorstop. It's too late, because in that twilight period, it was just a rock, which has no purpose on Shabbos, was useless, and therefore it is already muksa. And you can't change the status on Shabbos itself. Right, that's why, for an example, what we try and do is, let's say we have our Shabbos candles on a tray, or Yom Tov candles on a tray, or Shabbos candles on a tray. So you try and so the tray becomes a base for something that's muksa. So it becomes muksa too. So you put something on the tray that's not muksa. Let's say a challah, siddur, whatever. And now, once the candles have gone out, I can move the tray, even though the candlesticks are still on it, because the tray itself, if it was only a base to the candles, then at sunset, during that twilight period, it was just a base to muksa, it becomes muksa too. A base of something muksa is also muksa, and I can't move it. But if when the twilight period, it was a base to muksa and non-muksa, then it doesn't become muksa. It had something non-muksa as well. So even though I might have moved the challah Friday night, I might have taken it off, Shabbos day, I can move the whole tray, providing the candles are out, of course. Can't move candles that are lit, because you can either extinguish them, or you can move can make it go brighter from the movement. But if they've burnt out, there will be no problem to move it, because when Shabbos or Yom Tov began, it was not muksa. So you need a twilight period. Now, what happens is Shabbos owns both its twilight periods, right? Because Shabbos goes from sunset on Friday till nightfall on Saturday. So it's actually, although in concept, Shabbos theoretically is 24 hours, but it actually ends up being 25 hours, because it's taken both periods of twilight, the twilight between Friday and Saturday, and the twilight between Saturday and the Jewish Sunday, right, which starts Saturday night. So since Shabbos owns that twilight, this egg during the twilight period is still muksa from Shabbos. It got laid on Shabbos. It's still muksa from Shabbos. And Shabbos doesn't let go until the nightfall. And then it's already too late, because during the twilight period, it was muksa. So if the first day of Yontif, if the 2 days Yontif are both weekdays, right? The 2 days Yontif are weekdays. Then if it was laid the first day, the egg was laid the first day, we can cook it and eat it the second day. If the first day was Shabbos, then Shabbos didn't let go until after nightfall, and it was already Muksa on Shabbos. So in the twilight period, it remained Muksa, and therefore for Yontiv, second day Yontiv, it's also Muksa. Right, v'chein, and likewise, Shabbos is samach leYontiv. Whenever you have Shabbos next to Yontiv, bein lefono, bein acharav, whether it's a day before Yontiv or the day after Yontiv. Right now, last example, first day Yontiv was Shabbos. But now we've got Shabbos, let's say Shabbos and then Yontiv, Sunday, Monday, or the other way around. Thursday, Friday, Yontiv, then Shabbos. Either one of these. Nolda bazeh, asura bazeh. If it gets laid on Yontiv, let's use the example where Yontiv is Friday, Thursday, Friday, and then Shabbos. So the egg gets laid on a Friday. Now, in theory, if it would have been 2 days Yontiv, if it got laid on Thursday, then when Thursday ends, Friday takes over. It was Muksa on Thursday, it's good on Friday. The problem is, if it was laid on Friday, Shabbos takes possession of that twilight period of after sunset to Friday, but it's still sort of Yontiv till nightfall as well. So it's still Muksa because it's Yontiv, but it's already owned by Shabbos. So it means when Shabbos came in, it was Muksa. And so the egg is going to remain Muksa for the entire Shabbos. And the other way around. Let's say...
Excuse me, Rabbi?
Yeah.
What if the chicken laid the egg early Friday? It's not Shabbos yet.
No, but if it's laid anytime Friday, it's Muksa on Friday.
All right.
It's Muksa on Friday.
Just want to get a clarification.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's Muksa until Yontiv ends, which is at nightfall. But the problem is the Shabbos and the Yontiv overlap.
Correct.
So what happens is that when Shabbos actually begins, it's still Muksa from the Yontiv. And by the time the Yontiv leaves, we've finished the twilight period. So it was already Muksa for the rest of Shabbos. And the same works the other way around. If it got laid on Shabbos, and Yontiv was Sunday, meaning starts Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, and it was Muksa on Shabbos because it got laid on Shabbos, and Shabbos doesn't let go of it until nightfall Saturday night. But that means Yontiv already began. During that twilight period, it was already Muksa, and therefore it remains Yontif. It remains a Muksa for the whole Yontif. Now, that's regular Yontif. So regular Yontif, if it got laid on first day, you can use it the second day. There's an exception of a Rosh Hashanah. Now, Rosh Hashanah, the 2 days Rosh Hashanah are halachically considered like one long day, one like 48-hour day. So it's not really looked at as two independent days, like let's say the first 2 days Pesach, or the 2 days of Shavuos, or Shemini Atzeret, Simchas Torah. All those looked at as two independent days in halacha. 2 days Rosh Hashanah looked at as one long day. So on Rosh Hashanah, even if the egg, or also if the egg gets laid on the first day, a surah gam b'sheni is also still muksa on the second day. Why? Because the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah are considered halachic like one long day. Now, when we look at that, that's only for stringencies. It's not one day to be lenient, so you only have to daven chakras once, or hear shofar once, right? Or when it comes only for in areas we're going to be strict, it's like one long day. So therefore we can't use the egg. Avo le'inya mashu b'shal yom tovim asul l'sois miyom rishon the yom sheni kol kaman b'simni kafalv. Right, but in respect to other aspects of Yom Tov, we'll see later on. We get to there. Okay, so in those respects, ein chelik bein shal yom tovim Rosh Hashanah. There's no difference between other Yom Tov and Rosh Hashanah. You still daven twice. You do the mitzvah of the day twice, like blowing shofar, various things. The gam Rosh Hashanah also, and there's other things that were mentioned that we can't do on Rosh Hashanah, and we'll get to there. Well, in chapter 101, where we discuss Rosh Hashanah being one long day. Okay, after the brackets. Now, the im chal Rosh Hashanah b'yom chamishi or b'yom shishi. Now, if Rosh Hashanah is going to fall out on Thursday and Friday, afilu nolda b'yom chamishi, then even if the egg gets laid on Thursday, asur gam b'Shabbos, you can't even use it on Shabbos, because the 2 days Rosh Hashanah are considered like one day, and then that overlaps with Shabbos. So all 3 days you can't use the egg. All right. Now that's if the egg got laid. The leg, in other words, it left the body of the chicken. Different case though. Shachat tanugelis amatzah b'beitzim. You shechted a hen, and there's eggs inside. Right? I mean, they're I don't know if you ever looked inside a chicken. You ever shechted in the shechita? So it does have like it has its eggs. It looks like little tiny miniature, like a grape cluster.
It has a chain of eggs.
Yeah.
From little, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it looks like a cluster of grapes, a bunch of grapes. It looks like a little bit like. But it's possible that you shechted it, let's say 10 minutes. I'm just making up 10 minutes. It can be any time. Right before it was going to lay the eggs anyway. So here you not only have these little clusters, you actually have fully formed eggs, even with the shell. Right? It's ready to go. In just 5 minutes from now, it was going to be a laid egg as a separate entity. But you shechted it first, and you found the eggs in it. Afilu hangemuras, even though they're totally complete, they are shells, everything. Maturas afilu b'yom, you can even use them that day. In other words, they're considered as part of the chicken, since they never left the chicken, never left the chicken's body. It's considered part of the chicken's body, and therefore, you can even eat them on that. Not only you don't have to wait the second day Yom Tov, you can eat them on that day, right? Because you're allowed to shecht on Yom Tov. This, of course, as we learned, you have to designate the animal that you're going to shecht or the bird you're going to shecht before Yom Tov. Yes, David.
The fact that it's part of the chicken's body, it doesn't mean that it's fleshik, right?
Well,
Or
there's a whole chapter in Shulchan Aruch about where do you draw the line and where it's fleshik or not. So the general accepted opinion is that if it's fully formed with eggs, with shells, although you're not going to have it with meat, it's not going to make you, so it's there's whole discussion there, and there's 3 or 4 opinions exactly where we draw the line. If it only has a white or has a membrane, it's has the shell. So that's
So it would be better if you don't use it on the milchuk frying pan.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So that's eggs. So you can eat the eggs. Now, as a total side point to this, it's not a total side point, but if you shecht, let's say a cow, and it had a calf that now that the cow is shechted, or you cut the cow open, the calf was fully formed, it was close to being born, and it lives, right? It gets out of the, you cut open the cow, you let out the calf, and it lives. But at the moment of shechita, it was still inside the mother. So it's considered shechted already. It's considered part of the animal, ben bakua, considered shechted. And from a Torah perspective, you don't need to shecht it again. Right? You can just break its neck or something and just eat it. The Rabbanan, we do some form of shechita, but it's very lenient for certain mistakes or issues that would ruin a regular shechita. We're not worried about. So it's a lot easier, but we do that almost as a custom. But technically, you don't need to shecht it. It's considered shechted already.
Yes, but Rabbi,
Yeah.
it's my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but even though the calf, what you just said is break its neck and then you can eat it, doesn't that calf still have to be slaughtered the proper way?
No, because it's considered as if it was already slaughtered, because it was inside the mother when the mother was shechted. So it's considered like a piece of meat from the mother's body.
Yes, but it's still a living animal.
Well,
that's where I'm confused right now.
So I tell like this: it's living in the respect that it's breathing and walking around, but it's halakhically not living because it was shechted already. Now this doesn't happen very often. You can understand. It's rare, very rare that such a thing could happen.
Yeah, but if you're breaking the neck instead of just breaking it,
well, you don't have to break the neck. You could shoot it. I mean, anything you like, right? Anything. In other words, it doesn't require shechita.
Can you shecht it?
You can, and as I said, we
Okay.
practice. If it would happen, we actually do, but we're very lenient on the shechita. If there's a lot of, if certain things happen that would be problematic and ruin a regular shechita, we let it go on this because it technically doesn't need. So we do shecht it in practice. It's a custom that's brought in Shulchan Aruch, so it's sort of like a halacha, but technically you don't need to. If you didn't shecht it, you could eat it. So it's a very unusual case. There was a company that actually wanted to make a whole farm of these, right? Because if this ben bakua, this animal that came out of the this calf, if you let it grow up and it has children, so its children also, it's the same thing. And they wanted to make a whole farm, or like make a cut price shchita, and there's questions. Do you have to cut out the sciatic nerve to get a nasha from here? There's even opinion that the power of, it's not the accepted halacha, but I'm just saying, but there's all these things. There was a person who was trying to make a whole farm of this to, but you're actually not allowed to do it on purpose. The halacha is, if it happens, this is the status of the animal, but you're not meant to actually do it on purpose. So since it's something you're not meant to deliberately do, it was very hard to get a good rabbinic supervision on the factory. And without the good supervision, there weren't the customers. So what was thought to be a good financial idea sort of petered out. It didn't really work. But about 10 years ago, someone was trying to do that. Yeah, so that's, yes.
I know that your son explained to us, very interesting, how he's using special skin for making the tefillin and to write, the Torah scrolls and the zuzas. And he mentioned to us that it's probably even not born lambs or whatever, little baby lambs.
Yes.
That's what is used for that purpose.
Yeah.
I wonder how is it considered as a practice? I'm sure there are quite a few needs to be, killed or raised to have that type of material.
Yeah, so with that's a little bit different. So although there's plenty of particularly Torah skulls that are from regular cows, but tefillin and mezuzahs, which you only need smaller pieces, and so the best quality is from the calves, but these calves don't live. This is far more common where they shecht an animal, and there was a calf, inside the mother, reasonably formed. They could call it a calf and not, but it's not going to live. It's not alive. I mean, the case I was talking about the Ben Pekua is very rare. They have an animal that's formed enough to live independently, even though it still wasn't born yet. So what they use, the best parchment for tefillin mezuzahs come from these calves that were, they're not really calves, perhaps not the right word, but from the, I don't know, even though embryo is not really the right word either, but from these little things inside the cows when they shack them. Now again, they don't do it on purpose. They've just got there's a big meat plant, and 1,000 cows go through, and out of those 1,000, there's X amount that when they started to cut them into various pieces, they found these inside. So because it's much more supple. It's like a softer, and it's still reasonably thick. Right. So in theory, you can use the skin of any kosher animal, right? But if you use a fish, it's going to stink. Even if you dry it, you can't really make. That's why you don't buy fish leather jackets, right? It doesn't go. And birds are full of holes from the feathers. So so they're no good. So it's really just the sheep, the goats, the cows, and this ends up being in practice. So
thank you so much. Thank you for clarifying it.
yeah, no problems. So that's those animals, and I guess we ran out of time again. So no, even though it's only Monday, since I won't see you next week, wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos and a great week, and everything good. Everyone be healthy, and all the blessings.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good
Same to
Shabbos.
you.
Great week,
Yeah.
everybody.
Bye-bye.